Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Hit right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, is there trouble in Los Angeles? Just the day after the Clippers collapse, there are now reports that they are not a happy family. The NFL and the Patriots are reportedly having back-channel conversations. What does that all mean? And the Dolphins are moving forward with Ryan Tannehill. Good move or bad move? All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. Bristol, Connecticut, Carrie champion Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith.
How are you?
What's up, man?
Good to see you.
How's it going?
I'm good, all right. I'm doing all right. Thank y'all for
That's
asking.
the nice thing I'm going to say to him.
For the rest of the show?
Yeah.
I understand. Well, on the show today, ahead of the NBA lottery tonight, there's talk about free agency trades and low-key disputes during the season that could leave the Clippers and the Bulls without each of their superstars. We'll try to hash that all out. Plus, Ryan Tannehill is the first of his quarterback class to get a deal. The franchise says he's their guy moving forward. Kinda. Surprised or not surprised? Maybe, maybe not. Somebody's kind of weighing in already. But first, let's get to our top pick. Let's discuss the Clippers. Sources are telling Fox Sports that DeAndre Jordan, who is a free agent this summer, might leave as tensions grow with he and Chris Paul. Apparently, Chris Paul, the player coach that he is, has been tough on Jordan when it comes to his commitment, or what appears to be his lack of commitment, to improve his free throw shooting. Paul's complaints include not working enough with the shooting coach. Sources say the two have had issues all season long. Again, DeAndre Jordan, a free agent this summer. Stephen A., hash this all out for us. What do you think is going on here?
Well, first of all, I reached out to several sources within the Clippers organization over the last couple of days, and obviously in the aftermath of them losing on Sunday, particularly yesterday. Here's the deal. Chris Paul is Chris Paul. Chris Paul is the type of person. He's the point guard. He's the leader. He's the franchise, one of the two franchise players. He's the $100 million man. And Chris Paul is the type of dude that's going to get all up in your face. And he is going to let you know when you are not doing the kind of things that you are supposed to be doing to facilitate this team winning basketball games. And Skip Bayless, the report, while accurate, all right, on the part of Fox, is somewhat incomplete, because it's not just DeAndre Jordan that has had a problem with Chris Paul. It is also Blake Griffin. Now, Blake Griffin goes into the sunset and he does his little Kia commercials and all of that stuff. I should say little, because Kia is a big deal. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is that at one point in time in the season, both Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, from what my sources tell me, was so disgusted with Chris Paul that they tried to tune him out. But Chris Paul has the support of the owner. He has the support of the coach. He has the support of the coaching staff. And it is not just because he's the umbilical cord of the head coach on the floor, but it's also because, by and large, he produces. And in the case of DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul walked into this season, looked at the roster, looked at the absence of depth, knowing that he was going to have not just the responsibilities offensively, but the toughest defensive assignments, because he has to stick Steph Curry, even though when it's on defense, Klay Thompson is the one sticking him. He had to stick to Tony Parkers of the world. He had to stick to Russell Westbrooks of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So Chris Paul knew how taxing and what a challenge it was going to be on him. And he was in a situation where he was not hesitant at all to hold other guys accountable. Ultimately, fences mended. Wasn't that big of a deal years ago with the supposed rift between him and Blake Griffin. It wasn't like that this time around. But with DeAndre Jordan, according to what I'm being told, it never fully went away. DeAndre Jordan's attitude has been throughout the year, well, we'll see what happens once I become a free agent. Now, let me say this. Having said all of that, this is simply about two players, very good at what they do, but Chris Paul's the star and Chris Paul's going to hold you accountable. Let me say this to DeAndre Jordan. You never averaged in double digits in points nor rebounds until the last 2 years. That would coincide with Chris Paul being there. In each of your last 3 years, you have never shot better than 42% from the free throw line. So, in the end, when you look at the fact that he's shooting better than 66% from the field, well, what's that coming from? That's coming from dunks, because he has no post game. DeAndre Jordan has no postgame, which means it's usually via alley-oops, courtesy of Chris Paul. So you could leave and go to some place where you're going to get less, or you could stay, get as much money as you richly deserve, while at the same time playing with one of the elite point guards in the game.
So you would stay?
If I'm DeAndre Jordan, without hesitation, I would stay because it's the best situation for him because of the point guard he's playing with, who's a quintessential point guard. He's not a shoot-first point guard. Not to mention that being in Los Angeles, since that's the team that you're on and has your bird rights, you can end up staying with them and getting more money and a longer-term deal. So it works on both ends. This stuff will pass. It better pass if he's smart.
A lot of chatter about DeAndre Jordan going to the Dallas Mavericks. He's from the state of Texas, obviously from the Houston area, played at Texas A&M. Now, for reasons I can't explain, Michael Irvin is close to DeAndre Jordan and is brokering somehow the deal, according to the Dallas Morning News.
Right.
Wow.
That's neither here nor there.
Gotcha.
Back to your point. I know you're close with Chris Paul. Is he blameless in this situation?
Nobody's ever blameless, especially Chris Paul, because Chris Paul, anytime you're the leader, you share some culpability. But in fairness to him, I have not spoken. I called Chris Paul yesterday. I was not able to reach him. I have not spoken to him about this.
I don't think he's the perfect angel in this situation here. I do believe he deserves a measure of blame. Just as we spoke yesterday, he deserves, to me, the most blame for the Clippers' collapse. I wrote about this subject last night for ESPN.com, a column that we'll post in the next couple hours.
Okay.
So I did my fair share of research into this.
Okay.
And I am with your conclusions here. I'm not going to overblow this. I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it. There has been some internal jealousy among those three players.
Sure.
There's been a little finger pointing back and forth among those three. I think at times the other two look at Chris Paul and they want him to be held a little more accountable. As you know, he is a battler. He is a scrapper. He is a fighter. And he is very demanding. He's as demanding as Kobe has been with his Laker team.
That is accurate.
But there's one huge difference between Chris Paul and Kobe Bryant. Cachet, rings. So, again, Chris Paul is a very good player. We've talked about this. Is he a superstar? I can't give him the super yet until he at least gets to a conference finals. But these three players, let's just say this. Bottom line, they don't exactly love each other.
Right.
They're fine with each other. They get along. Their issues are kind of on and off issues. I'm with you about that. That's why I don't want to overestimate them today.
Right.
But are they a band of brothers? No. Mm-hmm. So when you watch their body language on the court as they begin to crumble against the Houston Rockets in Game 6 and then in Game 7, you don't see closeness. You don't see tight-knit on the court. And to me, Chris Paul's leadership falls a little short because he's not close friends with those two other guys. Maybe they do tune him out because maybe he has been in their ear a little too much for their liking. Again, winning solves everything here. So if they had broken through, and as Doc said yesterday, and I agree with him, they were 1 quarter away from the conference finals. So let's not blow the whole thing up. And you know what? I'm with you about DeAndre. In the end, Chris Paul is a really good player. I do think his heart is in the right place. Even though they've all had their issues, most of them petty, I think they can figure them out. And I bring up the stat that I used yesterday. Over the last 4 years, these Clippers have had the third best record in the NBA over 4 years since Chris Paul got there. That's behind the Spurs and the Thunder. Mm-hmm. That's pretty great, actually. That's something you should hang on to here in the wake of this epic collapse. You should not forget the fact that you've had that great regular season accomplishment.
Let me say this to you. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty here because I was interested in hearing what you had to say. Number one, anytime you're the leader, you have some culpability. Mm-hmm. Nobody's trying to give Chris Paul the quote-unquote pass here. No. You're the leader of a franchise, you're a $100 million player, you're going to accept some culpability, not just when you fall, but about the personalities not coming together and being unified as one, okay? That's number one. Number two, I spoke to Doc Rivers, briefly yesterday about it. He didn't talk to me about this because he was in a rush, but, we were texting and he basically said, I could not get them over the hump in terms of their level of focus that they had for San Antonio. They didn't view Houston and San Antonio in the same, and he blamed himself because it's his job to get them to see Houston every bit as the threat that San Antonio was. And once they got past San Antonio, you know, essentially they got lax there. But I also put that on Chris Paul too. Because if you played in 65 playoff games, okay, and you've never been to a conference finals, your hunger should have elevated to such astronomical proportions that nothing should have been allowed to be taken for granted. Not just with him, because I know he didn't do it, but he should have made sure the rest of them didn't do it. Having said all of that, let's also understand that I give Chris Paul small culpability in this equation compared to the other guys. Here's why. When we talked about Kobe, yes, it's not just, you know, Kobe won. But it wasn't just that he won. It was the dedication he put forth towards winning. As wrong as he may have been to call Shaq out years ago when he called Shaq out to Jim Gray, talking about he was fat and all of this other stuff, it also spoke to a level of frustration because as Shaq got older, towing around 300-plus pounds, you know, he's trying to relax at times like that. And Kobe's a workout warrior. He's working out. He's trying to keep himself in peak condition. He wants more championships. Well, he might not have handled it ideally, but what was the agenda? The agenda was about winning. How did we know that? Because when Dwight Howard didn't seem receptive to Kobe, nobody was trying to hear that because we were like, yo, you don't have 5 rings. He does. We ain't trying to hear it. Now, even though Chris Paul doesn't have any rings, the legitimate argument could be made, the feistiness, the pit bull mentality, and all of this other stuff. He wants it because winners who are dedicated and focused all want to play with Chris Paul. But if you look at a DeAndre Jordan, I'm not questioning him. I like DeAndre Jordan. I've repeatedly told DeAndre Jordan, if the dude worked on this post game and hit some free throws, he'd be the best big man in the game.
And by the way, quick point of order.
Sure.
He has finished 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year last 2 years.
That's right. And
so Chris Paul has benefited from that part. Okay?
He has benefited, and Chris Paul knows that.
Okay.
But if you know that you legitimately, listen, if we know that the Clippers only go 6 deep, you think Chris Paul didn't know that? So if he knows that, he's like, wait a minute. You're going to have to play. And I need you to hit these free throws. Don't, you know, you shooting 38%. Don't you think you need to be out here shoot for some free throws? If you play Griffin and you making all of these commercials just like he is, don't you think you need to show up in the 4th quarter? So he is going to challenge you on that. And my point is, you can get mad at him. That doesn't make it newsworthy. What makes it newsworthy, if you think about leaving, because if you DeAndre Jordan, excuse me, Skip Bayless, while I look into this camera, DeAndre Jordan, where the hell are you going? I mean, who are you going to play for? Because let me tell you something. DeAndre Jordan without a point guard is Dikembe Mutombo. You blocking shots. You rebounding. You winning. You a contender for Defensive Player of the Year. But offensively, you ain't doing a damn thing without a point guard. Because if you don't have Chris Paul penetrating into the teeth of a defense, throwing it up alley-oops, signifying Lob City, what are you going to bring to the table if you DeAndre Jordan?
Okay, is it possible that Chris Paul has just worn him out with his pit bullness, his demanding, complaining,
my answer to that would be a question to you. My answer to that would be a question to you. Would you find that acceptable for anybody when it comes to trying to win championships? You upset at somebody getting on you about your deficiencies when you know that it's a deficiency? Okay. Come on now.
They don't have anything to show for all that they're putting up with from their point guard. Again, 4 straight years of very good regular seasons, but you still can't get out of the 2nd round.
I ask you a question, Skip. When you watch the Clippers, and again, I hold Chris Paul with Doc as much as you know how much I love them brothers, but I hold them both accountable for that collapse in Game 6 because they're the leaders. You got to stop the bleeding. But outside of that collapse in Game 6, you tell me what game in the postseason that Chris Paul did have one bad game against the Spurs. That one bad. I think it was Game 3 if I remember correctly. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is that outside of that, Game 3 against the Spurs and a quarter in Game 6.
Right.
What else is there about Chris Paul? He wasn't the reason. This brother can play, man. And I'm looking at DeAndre Jordan. I love DeAndre Jordan's game defensively. Offensively, the alley-oops are just sensational to watch. But he has no post game. and he can't hit free throws, which means that for the most part, unless you're throwing him an alley-oop, you are playing 4-on-5 on the offensive end of the floor.
What do you think Blake Griffin thought when Chris Paul missed game 1 against Houston? Remember game 1 at Houston?
That's right.
Remember what Blake Griffin did? He went crazy.
That's right.
He had a triple-double with, if memory serves, 13 assists.
Nope, got to debunk that.
Okay.
Because he was going off throughout the playoffs. He was going off throughout the playoffs.
They won with no Chris Paul. They won at Houston.
But they won with Chris Paul against San Antonio. With Chris Paul. So I don't want to hear that. It's not like, oh, that happened without Chris Paul, but with Chris Paul, something else happened. Oh, no. Blake Griffin had career numbers. The problem, Blake Griffin walked into Sunday, Game 7, averaging less than 30% shooting from the field and less than 4 points in the fourth quarter. You are a superstar in the fourth quarter? I can't find you? Come on now.
Okay, but
come on
now. The biggest come on now is what happened in the fourth quarter of Game 6 at home.
That's right.
You are the superstar, quote-unquote, leader of your team. And your team, at some point, you have to push the right button in one of those guys or in yourself.
I agree with that.
And my biggest issue, and this is what I wrote about in my column, Chris Paul isn't selfish enough. In the end, you say he's only 6 feet tall. Trust me, I know the Spurs, and from inside out, they are scared to death of him when he decides, give me the ball and get out of my way, as he did on the final play at Game 7 against the Spurs. Because he can be unstoppable when he plays mad. He's got that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, but the problem with a 6-foot guard, devoid of the athleticism of a Russell Westbrook, a Derrick Rose, even an Allen Iverson. Listen to my point. Okay. The problem with that, Skip, is that when it comes to the Clippers, because of what teams know Chris Paul has around him, when he gets in that mode, they stay home. Because, again, there are trees up there, and he's forcing shots over 7-footers. Listen, Blake Griffin is a star. DeAndre Jordan is a human highlight reel. I want to keep the nucleus in place. DeAndre Jordan should stay. But let's be clear about something here. Just like we're sitting here debating this, other teams know these guys' mental makeup, and they are not looked at as strong mentally right now. Nobody says that about Chris Paul. They don't say that about him.
I think they look at the collective psyche.
Right, collective psyche,
and it's not strong.
That's right,
because it's not close.
But like you said, a 4-time, 5-time world champion in Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich, 4-time champions in the Spurs with Ginobili and Tony Parker. What did you just say? Who do they fear? Why?
When he goes crazy.
I'm just saying, but who is it that they fear? You didn't say Blake Griffin?
They don't.
CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and the Clippers are still without a conference finals appearance in 45 seasons as a franchise. Let's stay with free agency. As it approaches, we'll continue to hear about big names that are up for grabs, and we'll also hear more stories about players who are unhappy. This time, though, we're in Chicago. We're talking about Jimmy Butler. According to 670 The Score, Rose was frustrated during the Game 6 loss to the Cavs and allowed Butler to take over on offense. Rose attempted only 4 shots in that second half. I don't know if you remember. It's being described as his passive-aggressive approach because Butler has emerged as the primary scorer and perhaps the better choice for the Bulls. So, here's the question. Could this push Butler out the door this summer, or will he stay? Stephen A., your take on what's going on in Chicago.
My take on what's going on in Chicago is that Jimmy Butler bet on himself and won. He pulled the Darrelle Revis. I was in Chicago, their home opener against the Cleveland Cavaliers earlier this season in November 1st, November 1st or whatever it was. Okay? I was there. The reason why I bring that up is because that night at midnight, the Bulls had to make a decision on Jimmy Butler, whether they were going to agree with him or they were going to just part ways. They offered approximately $10.5 million. Jimmy Butler was at about 12.5. They couldn't reach an agreement. He now is going to command about $15 million a year. Jimmy Butler is an all-star. He is a 20-point-per-game scorer. More importantly, this series against LeBron James, where he was not stellar offensively, he defended LeBron James the whole series. And no one can deny. It was almost like Jordan against Dumas. Jordan's going to be Jordan. Jordan's going to get his. But you couldn't deny that Dumas made him work. you couldn't deny that Dumas was a relatively tougher defender
That's
for
a good
him,
analogy.
tougher for him than most other people. That was Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler doesn't have to go against LeBron James any night. And if you could sit there and, you know, one day when LeBron had 38 and 12, for example, Jimmy Butler had 29. The boy didn't disappear. Now, he had a bad shooting night in Game 6, and we understand that. But for the most part, this guy shows up night in, night out. He has proven to be more durable than Derrick Rose, and obviously he wants his shine because he wants to get paid, and he got the Most Improved Player award, which is going to facilitate that transpiring. I'm not hearing about any friction, but I could tell something was awry. Derrick Rose was very passive-aggressive, like y'all said. I think that a lot of that had to do with him being frustrated by Matthew Dellavedova, because Dellavedova was all over him. Excuse me, and he really defends and gets up in you. And I think that has something to do with Derrick Rose having a miserable Game 6 as well. But I also think Thibodeau's offense frustrated them to no end because they were getting into their sets 12 and 14 seconds into the clock. These guys are frustrated because they're looking at opposing offenses. They're looking at opposing coaches. You know Thibodeau is brilliant defensively. You know they play hard for him. But at the same time, you do find yourself wishing that you could be more effective, more fluid offensively, especially if you're Jimmy Butler looking for your money, because those kind of things contribute to you getting paid. And Derrick Rose, I can tell you this, Skip, for a fact. He's tired of having to feel like he has to carry such a load. Even though they improved dramatically offensively this year, still in all, you need a system in place, not just personnel. And I think all of those things contributed. So it's not about Butler and Derrick Rose. It's about a cumulative, you know, array of things that have transpired in Chicago that has served to beat these guys down to some degree.
Okay, but time out. The report from Dan Bernstein of the Score radio station in Chicago is that effectively Derrick Rose was pouting because the guy just voted most improved player in the NBA this year, Jimmy Butler, was more featured in the offense. That Derrick Rose thought he was a second thought in the offense.
But Derrick Rose has been upset about that periodically throughout the year, from what I'm told. But it's not directed at the frustration of Jimmy Butler per se. It's that basically he's back. He worked hard to get healthy, not really comprehending that you've been hurt the previous two full seasons, and we have to be prepared for life without you. We can't just throw it all on you, because if we did that, then you went down, we'd have nothing. And so he wasn't receptive to that.
You don't think there was a little bit of jealousy going on?
No, I don't.
Wow.
I don't believe that. Because Jimmy Butler's ascension only helps Derrick Rose. And not only that, Derrick Rose and his brother Reggie, who everybody knows has a strong influence with Derrick, have religiously said for years, to my face, they would always love and welcome an additional scorer, somebody to help out. Derrick Rose doesn't have a problem with that because he knows that's exactly what he needs.
Okay, but in that game, you thought big picture of the Bulls the next day. You said they quit. The only guy who looked like he at least played half-heartedly was Derrick Rose, because we kept seeing him doing the Jay Cutler on the bike, right? He played 17 minutes in the second half and scored 2 points. I mean, this is a guy, the former MVP. We know he's been through all kinds of knee issues, but that's just wrong. There's something wrong with that picture.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly what it was, but again, Dan Bernstein is saying that there was a little bit of resentment of the featured Jimmy Butler, on the part of Derrick Rose. Look, this is real close. I know a lot of people in Chicago because I work there. These are fans I know, long-time close observers of the Bulls. They're real close to being done with Derrick Rose. Like, is he close to being more trouble than he's worth? It's a big question. When he's right, as we saw in the playoffs a couple times, he still looks pretty much like Derrick Rose. So how can you be done with that? But he's made a lot of money for doing nothing for that basketball team, and this will be another issue for Chicago to deal with that will make Derrick Rose a little less popular among Bulls fans. Last quick point. Is it possible, and you and I have discussed this before, I think, but is it possible it was just a bad development that Derrick Rose wound up in the city in which he was born and raised? Would he have been better off somewhere else than feeling like he was the man in Chicago, having to put the city of broad shoulders on his shoulders? I'm not sure it's a healthy situation anymore.
Skip, I got to be careful about what I'm about to say because I don't want it to come across as if I'm not a believer in Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau is an exceptional coach. I think he's one of the top 4 coaches in all of the NBA. And I think his record during the regular season has proven just as much. But they have not made noise in the postseason. Derrick Rose has been gone. I think when the city looks at Derrick Rose, when you talk about people being done with him, I think there are people who don't believe he'll ever be what he once was because of injury.
Yep.
In that regard, if that definition of done is applicable, because they're like, I don't know if this guy will ever be the same. But it's not like they're done with him because he can't play or whatever. Man, the roar that they give him, the way they love him and want him to produce, they just want him healthy. In the case of Tom Thibodeau, in the aftermath of that game, you walking throughout the arena, everyone was complaining about Tom Thibodeau. They were not complaining about Derrick.
Offensively more than
offensively.
Yes.
No, nobody complains about him defensively. I mean, we all know how he's
although they
defensively.
weren't what they have been
Yeah, but that's because they sacrificed it because of more offense.
Yep.
You know, because Gasol is not going to help you but so much defensively. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is that almost everyone was talking about Thibodeau because they thought it was the worst coaching job they had ever seen him perform in that particular game. And as a result, they're like, my God, what are we offensively? Because you're paying your hard-earned money, guys.
Yeah.
And let's face reality. You don't just want to win. See, the Spurs, and I'll make this last point. We talk about the Spurs being boring, but we're just talking about their personalities because they don't say much. But their brand of basketball is not boring at all. They play team basketball. They can give clinics on the sport of basketball. And it's incredibly fascinating and impressive to watch. And when you pay your hard-earned money and you walk through those turnstiles and you see a guy getting into the offense 12, 14 seconds into the shot clock and you barely getting off one shot and it just looks lethargic and dysfunctional, you're like, I paid to see this? That's what Chicago's going through right now. And that's what's going to have to change.
Latest on Deflategate. Our Adam Schefter says there are, quote, unquote, back-channel conversations between the NFL and the Patriots to see if the league and the team can resolve their differences without an appeal or possible litigation. Turns out NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Patriots owner Robert Kraft have already met, spoke, and even hugged per an industry source who witnessed it. Goodell and Kraft each attended a birthday party Saturday night where they were spotted on a couch talking by themselves for quite a long time, per one source. And for those asking why Patriots suspended equipment assistant John Trashimsky and locker room attendant Jim McNally if those two did nothing wrong, as New England claims, according to Schefter, the NFL asked Patriots to suspend them prior to discipline being handed down. However, an NFL spokesman denied the report. So, this is the latest on Deflategate. Skip Bayless, your take.
First of all, I'm a little surprised after the report from Peter King, and help me out on this because you had Peter on your radio show yesterday, the great Peter King. He
along with the great Skip Bayless.
I was, until the phone didn't work. I think he cut me off.
He probably did.
Yeah, I was making too strong.
Yeah,
I think I had him on the
You had him on the
and all of a
ropes.
sudden the phone was
You had him on the
faulty.
ropes, yeah.
And it wasn't my phone, it was their phone. But that's a whole nother
Oh,
issue.
Well, the less time you talk, the more time there is for me.
No, see.
That's a good point. So Peter King interviewed Bob Kraft on, I believe, Friday, and then reported it in a Monday morning quarterback on
50 minutes,
Monday.
yeah.
Okay, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So from Friday to Saturday night, man, a lot changed because Robert Kraft went after Roger Goodell in the interview with Peter King, right? And he went website on Roger Goodell just last week with their 20,000-word rebuttal by their attorney, the Patriots attorney, to the Wells report. So I'm a little surprised, but again, the depth of their relationship goes way back. We talked about how Goodell's really been the number one supporter, the staunchest supporter of Roger Goodell.
I mean, Robert Kraft is,
Yeah, Robert Kraft of Goodell. So, look, is it possible that on the team level, there could be a back channel sort of off-the-record pre-appeal mediation going on here between mended fences, Kraft, and Goodell? Sure, but those are on the team penalties of draft choices and fine. Would maybe Goodell say, hey, let's kind of kiss and make up here. Maybe we did overreact. Maybe we're a little too hard on you guys. Maybe we reduce your fine to, I don't know, $500,000 and instead of a first-round pick, it's a third-round pick. I don't know. But there are two different issues going on here. There's the team issue and there's the Tom Brady issue. There is no way Tom Brady is going to mediate this pre-appeal. There is no way he even cares that much about the appeals process, as I've told you. Even if Roger Goodell presides over the appeal and says, Tom, you know what, you make a couple of good points, we reduce your suspension from 4 to 2 games. Even accepting a 2-game suspension is accepting some degree of guilt. Am I right?
Yeah.
Tom Brady says he's 0 innocent, 100% innocent, as 0 guilty, 100% innocent, and is prepared to go to court. So again, team sanctions could be reduced because of the long-term relationship between Kraft and Goodell. But Brady is a whole nother issue here, and I still say it might require court for Brady to attempt to completely clear his name, which we both agree has already been tainted probably permanently.
Well, then Brady's going to bring more stress down upon himself. So be it. I mean, you know, you walk around talking like Tom Brady's going to stick out his chest and put on his Superman cape. This ain't throwing touchdowns. You're going up against Roger Goodell in the NFL or league office. So bring it on.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is
he's
that,
bringing.
Well, you know, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And Skip, I would caution you to let's see what happens, because here's the thing. Bountygate is entirely different than this.
Okay, so why are we talking about Bountygate?
What I'm saying to you is this, because Bountygate, Jonathan Vilma and those guys made a case. Think about what you're saying here. Jonathan Vilma and those guys were on the field laying licks on a Brett Favre and others, okay, where Brett Favre had to damn near be carried off the field for the NFC Championship game. And you're saying that the hits that we were seeing, which took place within the confines of a 60-minute football game, right? They went out to hurt him intentionally. Well, most football players that are hitting you are trying to put licks on you. They want to paralyze you for the moment. They want to make sure they cave your chest in. They want to make sure you're scared to come across the middle. They want you limping off the field. They're proud when they take you out of a game, etc., etc. You're saying, as Roger Goodell in the league office, you attached a bounty to that and made it so salacious, so incendiary. You understand? It was almost considered a criminal act, all right? That, and you're saying this is what in somebody's mind, and then talk about pay for play and all of this other stuff. No, Jonathan Vilma and them fought that to the hilt, and they should have, which is why I apologize to them. Tom Brady and Deflategate is different. And the reason why is because the issue at hand is deflated footballs. The issue at hand is what Tom Brady knew about it. The NFL is not the court of law. They are the court of the NFL. They can simply sit back, Skip, and say, go ahead and take us to court. We don't believe you. All right? And what are you going to do? You're going to take them to court, and you're going to say, I am 100% totally innocent. And they're going to say, well, you know what? We believe circumstantial evidence incriminates you, but also we don't like the way you conducted yourself during the investigation, so that has something to do with it.
That'll come out in court.
All right, so what I'm trying to say to you is this. Let's say, for example, the court sat there and said, well, you can't prove he deflated the footballs. You can't prove he did, can't prove he did it. But they are prone to send it back to the league because they don't want to get in the middle of what's been collectively bargained in terms of Goodell's power. So then we go back to Goodell's power. And Goodell's power is stipulated in such a fashion that if he believes that you have been uncooperative, that alone could justify him giving you 2 games. So even if Tom Brady is innocent about the deflated footballs, Roger Goodell could sit there and say, you know what? You were acting up. During the investigation, you were uncooperative. I still don't believe you, but since they want to say we can't definitively prove that you did it, I'll reduce it to 2 games because the 2 games is because you were uncooperative. What you going to do then? You going to sit there and say you can't prove I was uncooperative? What are you going to do?
First thing you've done is you have sued Roger Goodell for defamation. If it comes to this, that's exactly what Jonathan Vilma did. He sued Roger Goodell for defamation. First thing he got was he was granted an injunction to allow him to play football without suspension, right?
Right.
So it's possible that the first thing that would happen is Tom Brady would get to play game 1 if he got an injunction.
Well, how many games did Vilma miss?
I can't remember when the...
Yeah, but he did miss some. He did miss some. And not only that, how much money? I'm not sure he did. I think so. I think so. Let's double check that.
I don't think he missed it.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, these guys, there were prices that they paid, which was why Roger Goodell was willing to concede. I'm just telling you right now,
Look,
4 games,
okay,
Tom Brady's not going to walk away unscathed.
You keep sort of poo-pooing, oh, it's just deflating the football. Not a big deal in your eyes. The big deal to Tom Brady is he has been nationally branded a cheater.
I agree with that.
A cheater.
I agree
and
with
he
that.
says, I didn't cheat.
I agree with
that. So
that.
the only outlet that he has, the last hurrah for him is to go to a United States court and say, I'm here to prove my innocence.
Right, and I'm telling you, and the only case that I'm making definitively, I can't make a case that Tom Brady directly had something to do with deflating the footballs. He has been branded a cheater. He has been branded a liar. It is defamation of character as far as I'm concerned. I get all of that. But the reason why your cooperation during the investigation matters so much is because you do play under the shield of the NFL.
Okay, again, the only thing I know that he was uncooperative about was he wouldn't give up his cell phone.
It does not matter what the only thing was. If the NFL mentions in their own words that they believe you were uncooperative, and they're saying that contributed to the penalty, there is no court in the land that can come and accuse the NFL of lying about him being uncooperative. You could sit there and say something about the deflation of footballs, but you can't sit there and determine for the NFL what the definition of cooperative is during an investigation.
Remember,
you can't do that.
Patriots attorney sat in on all these interviews, so he will testify on Brady's behalf.
You mean the same Patriots attorney that brought up the deflator and the guy was talking about losing weight?
Yes,
that attorney?
Well,
he loses all credibility reaching with his sorry
I assume
self.
Robert Kraft wrote most of that, or at least
Really? Come on, Skip.
Come on.
The lawyer. Robert Kraft wrote the deflator. Robert Kraft wrote the deflator.
You don't think he signed off on all of it?
Robert Kraft.
You think he read it before it went up on the website?
You could lean.
Better believe
you could lean on the expertise of your team attorney. The deflator. Robert Kraft wrote that down. Really, Skip? That's where you're going? That's where you're going. Robert Kraft wrote the deflator. He meant that he was losing weight.
Joe,
really?
Well, again, he's saying, Robert Kraft was saying to Peter King that a lot of the things that were just jokey texts between the two attendants were taken as fact, and the leap was made to connect
because
Brady.
Robert Kraft is the owner, and he is standing by his personnel who have sworn to him they are telling the truth. Robert Kraft is not doing anything wrong here. Listen, this dude is special. I love me some Robert Kraft. He's standing behind his guys. But that doesn't mean he's aware of every little nook and cranny.
Do you think he fully believes that Tom Brady is 100% innocent?
I do believe Robert Kraft believes that.
Yeah.
I do believe he believes that.
So he's not just standing behind
No, but that's what I'm saying. But that's what I mean when I'm saying that.
Okay.
Let's not play semantics there. Of course I believe he believes that. That's why he's taking this position, because he believes in him wholeheartedly.
So what do you think he should tell Tom Brady to do now? I'll take your 2 games and just go on about it, just play on?
Skip.
No, he's not going to say that.
He shouldn't tell Tom Brady to do anything if Tom Brady's issue is about being branded a liar and a cheater. But if Roger Goodell sits there and says, okay, fine, I can't prove that you deflated the footballs, but damn it, you were uncooperative. And because of that alone, you're getting 2 games.
That's your definition of uncooperative.
No, that's dead, not me. Skip, I don't care.
No, I'm saying you're Roger Goodell. You were speaking as Roger Goodell.
Roger Goodell.
I said that's yours, Roger.
Okay, I'm speaking as Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
That's what they said. I'm saying no court in the land can come along and tell Roger Goodell what the definition of cooperative is. They can't do it. It's his league. It's his league. You can't, the court can't step in and sit there and go like this. Well, we can sit there and talk about you didn't prove he deflated the footballs. But then Roger Goodell sits back and with Troy Vincent and Ted Wells and them. Look, he was uncooperative. We could have got to the bottom of this months ago. He did a poor job of addressing his own interests. We weren't satisfied. This plays a role in the severity of the penalty. And then the court's going to come and say, no, we can ignore that.
That's where you always lose me. You yourself, you're the first proponent of right to privacy. There's no way you would give up your cell phone under the same circumstances.
You know what? You keep lying. You did that on my radio show yesterday.
I did, because I got you.
I'm going to do it again. No, because you keep misquoting me.
Okay.
I specifically, Kerry Chim, good Lord, help me, girl. Here's the deal.
That's absurd. What you're about to say is absurd.
No, what I said was this. Ted Wells, not me. Ted Wells said, he told us, do we need to get the tape and play it again? He said, I'm only going by what he said. He said, I told them, I will not take your cell phone. I will not leave this room. If you just show me emails or text messages relevant to Deflategate, I will take you at your word. Just show it to me, and they wouldn't do it. No, I would not give anybody my cell phone. I don't want nobody to see what's up in here. I'll be the first to admit it. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, Skip, is this. Outside of that, if you ask me...
You got nothing to hide. You got nothing to hide.
I got nothing to hide, but you either give up your cell phone and your emails or you do not.
No. That's ridiculous.
This is an investigation.
Come on.
I
got him. So this is an email. This is a laptop with an email. I can't pick out an email to show you. I got to show you my whole email box. I can't just pick out an email, open the email, and show it to you.
And I'm going to suspend you off the emails you pick out and give to me. Are you
Come
kidding?
on now.
It would be laughable.
Please. It's nonsense. You could have shown. He could have shown the text
laughable
message. He could have shown the text message. He could have shown the email. He refused to do it. He brought this on himself. Period.
You would have brought it on yourself.
No, I would have showed those text messages and email. I wouldn't have showed everything else. I'll be the first to admit that.
Like
and they wouldn't have had my phone.
You would have been like,
no, I wouldn't have done that. I would not have done that.
There would have been those 4 other texts about deflating the footballs. You say, I'm not going to show them.
No, I would have shown the things relevant to Deflategate. I would not have shown my personal emails with the wife and other things. No, I would have kept that to myself.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
You think back to the quarterback class of 2012 that included Andrew Luck, RG3, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles. The first quarterback from the class of 2012 to re-sign with his team, to sign a contract extension, is Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback who Joe Philbin called out last season, publicly challenged with his job, and yet Tannehill finished the season strong enough for the Miami Dolphins to want to do an extension with him through the 2020 season. That tacks on all these years to a quarterback that they drafted in that trumpeted class of 2012, and he gets the extension before Andrew Luck, before RG3, before Russell Wilson, before Nick Foles, or the quarterbacks in that class take a backseat right now to Ryan Tannehill and the new extension that he has just signed with the Miami Dolphins.
According to Adam Schefter, it's a 6-year deal worth $96 million, 45 of that guaranteed. Tannehill had previously been under contract through the 2016 season after the Dolphins picked up his 5th-year option this offseason. Tannehill, coming off a career season where he threw for over 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, had a good QBR in 2014. Tannehill, who was drafted 8th overall in 2012, again, as Adam Schefter mentioned, is the first of his quarterback class to get renewal. Andrew Luck, RG3, Russell Wilson, Nick Foles. So let's talk about this, Skip Bayless. Moving forward with one Ryan Tannehill, good move or a bad move for the Dolphins?
I wouldn't have done it. You know how I feel, Stephen A. I said on the record before that draft, I don't love this guy, and I still don't love him. At least the Dolphins didn't bet their entire ranch. At least they didn't go Flacco Romo with the guaranteed money, because now Ryan Tannehill's guaranteed portion is tied for 11th among quarterbacks with Alex Smith. So again, maybe they sort of mitigated this a little bit. Ryan Tannehill is a quarterback who will always be not bad, but not great. Ryan Tannehill is your basic damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of quarterback. Difficult to find someone a whole lot better than him because they don't grow on trees. Yet he's not the guy who will ultimately take you to the promised land. And as Kerry just pointed out, Joe Philbin got to a breaking point last year where it looked like he was ready to pull the plug on Ryan Tannehill. I don't know exactly what changed. I don't know if the end of the year changed that, because he did come on, had a pretty good year last year, 27 touchdowns to only 12 interceptions. He was 5th in overall accuracy and completion percentage. Not bad. But again, the team went 8-8, as it went 8-8 the year before that, and went 7-9 with Ryan Tannehill the year before that. He is durable. He is sturdy. He will always be there. He hasn't missed a start for you. Is he that guy? Is he going to take you over the hump and finally into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs? I'm going to give that a big no. Now, they have completely changed their receiver corps. So next year is a huge year for Ryan Tannehill. They wiped it out and started over. Jordan Cameron, my little guy Kenny Stills from University of Oklahoma, who was
I like Kenny.
I do too. And we'll see how he does there. Greg Jennings, our old friend from the show here.
Right.
I'm not sure what Greg's got left, but maybe he's got something left.
I spoke to him. He feels he's got a lot left.
Okay. And then they drafted with the 14th overall out of Louisville, Devontae Parker, who looks like he's pretty good to me. So you've got some weapons, which brings us back to his big deficiency over the last 2 years. He was the third lowest in completion percentage on deep throws, 20-plus yards. Only worse was Derek Carr and Cam Newton. And last year he had only one touchdown of 20 yards or more. So he hasn't thrown the deep ball well, but could that go back to Mike Wallace and their lack of chemistry or rapport? Maybe so. Maybe Mike Wallace was just not happy there. Well, for whatever reason, they couldn't literally connect. So, again, you give him a shot next year, but I'm going to stick with what I said before the draft. Ultimately, Dolphin fans will be frustrated long-term with Ryan Tannehill.
If you're saying he's good but not great, I can live with that. If you're saying he didn't,
I'll go decent but not
If you're
great.
saying that he didn't deserve this money, I respectfully disagree. This is Jay Cutler caliber money, maybe a little less.
Not the guaranteed.
It was 45 million more, 45 million in guaranteed dollars. I'm looking at a guy like Kaepernick, for example, 61 million in guaranteed money. You know, I'm looking at some of these guys, and it's not like he's getting paid what they're getting paid. He's a respectable quarterback with the potential to be really good. I think that when you think about cohesiveness, when you think about the fact that quarterbacks don't grow on trees, when we've recognized how difficult it is to find somebody to put behind center and pencil in there every Sunday afternoon, I think he deserves the money. You know, he's been in the league for 3 years, Skip, 7-9 and 2 back-to-back 8-8 seasons in the AFC East. By the way, let's also look at the fact that, again, you didn't have much of a running game as far as I'm concerned. Mike Wallace was your primary receiver. We know how that was working out. Joe Philbin was your coach. And by the way, maybe they made a decision to pick Tannehill over Joe Philbin. Maybe. Because they got some question marks about Philbin. That's highly got questions about everybody else. So when I look at it from that perspective, I told you I've always liked Tannehill, and I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, and I'd give him a chance. In today's game, it's very, very difficult to find a decent quarterback, as New York Jets fans can tell you over and over and over again.
And Buffalo Bills
fans and all of that stuff. So when I look at it from that perspective, you take a chance on this guy. $45 million compared to what other quarterbacks are getting. Skip, I have no problem with it. And by the way, yes, he might have had that low percentage on deep throws, but overall, he completed 66% of his passes. Overall, his QBR was 59. It ain't great.
Okay.
That was his best of the three.
That was his best of the three. Well, it was his latest.
That's not bad.
It was his latest. The 66% completion and a 4,000-yard passing season is not bad. They're going in the right direction.
Can you go win the Super Bowl with Ryan?
Well, no, but you're not paying a guy $45 million to win. Russell Wilson is going to get mega dollars, okay? Well, you know what? Andrew Luck is going to get it too. They didn't win a Super Bowl either. All I'm saying to you is that it's not about winning. You want to win a Super Bowl, but in the end, you want somebody that can hold down the fort.
Right.
And to do at least a respectable job and won't help you beat yourself. Ryan Tannehill does at least that. I would have given him the money.
45 guaranteed. That's not
$77 million in new money.
That's not much.
Unless you wake up 3 years from now and you're mired in mediocrity.
Well, again,
that could be the
what
case.
Quarterbacks you could have had. Who could they get?
What's available? Well, since the lottery moved to its present format in 1994, the team with the best odds has won 3 of 21 lotteries. Philly in 96 with AI, Cleveland in 03 with LeBron, and Orlando in 04 with Dwight Howard. The 3 teams this year's draft already have some really good picks and some really good talent for these marquee franchises. Specifically, let's talk about the Lakers and the Knicks. They're trying to rebuild and think about their future. So tonight is crucial. How crucial is it for those two teams? That is the question. Joining us now, who's also an expert.
I'm an expert. I'm a Laker fan, though.
That's an expert.
I know my esteemed colleague over here is a Knicks fan. So I got my Laker gold on today. I know.
So Coach Herman Edwards already knew today was the day. He heard Magic Johnson before the break.
No, that wasn't an accident.
You got on your purple and gold.
This is Laker Day.
Listen.
We're going to get the first pick. Sorry, they're going to get the second pick. We're going to get the first pick.
We're going to do this, right?
Yeah. It's going to get done. And then you know what we're going to do next year?
All right, tell me about it.
When your boy's contract ends down there with the Thunder, that Westbrook fella.
No, I'm here for it.
He gonna get
You got a shot.
Coming home.
You got a
Coming
shot.
home.
You got a shot.
I'm just checking.
I'm here for it.
I'm just checking.
You got a shot, but I will tell you this.
Yes, sir.
I will tell you this. There's no way in hell the Lakers are getting the top pick. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because Jim Buss is there.
Oh, boy.
It's a black cat running around that organization.
bad luck.
As long as he's there, it won't happen.
It won't come down from the league office.
It won't come down from the league. I would love for the Lakers and the Knicks to get the top 2 picks in the draft because I think the NBA needs it personally.
They do.
But I don't see the Lakers having that kind of luck. But then again, it might be the Knicks because of Dolan. I'm just of the mindset that, I just don't think it's
So tell our viewers why you're going to be on site tonight to ensure there are no shenanigans.
Shenanigans. That's the word of the day.
But time out. He also has to give up his cell phone, guys. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to shut it off. Ain't nobody going to have access to it. I'm just giving them my phone.
You're not going to give it to me to protect for
No,
them?
no, I'm
No
not.
way.
No, I'm not. No way. But I will tell you that the NBA league office called me and asked me to be in attendance, one of 12 media members. I'm going to be in attendance, and the stuff that happens in the room, the envelopes get concealed, and they go through the whole process with the ping pong balls and everything like that to make sure that the whole process is legitimate. You bring national media members in. They've asked me to be in attendance tonight.
Because once upon a time, Patrick Ewing, right? And
that's right.
That's the frozen envelope,
I will
right?
say this, though. I think the Knicks made an error. I think the NBA made an error. Instead of inviting me, the Knicks should have invited me to sit there instead of Steve Mills. Because since Phil Jackson's not going to be there. I love my man Steve Mills, the GM for the Knicks.
Oh, you want to sit out on television?
I'm just saying. I'm talking
as if you're not on it.
No, I'm talking about for the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like, let me be the Bush like we got.
Well, then I ought to show up for the Lakers.
Let me show up for the Lakers. That's what I'm saying. You show up for the Lakers. I show up for the Knicks. That's what they should have let me do. But I am honored that the NBA asked me to be in attendance, and I will be in attendance for the draft.
Congratulations, Mark.
In the back.
Congratulations.
Why do you think it's just this year that you're going to have the 12 witnesses just to vouch?
They said, according to the communications department, they've done this usual with other media members.
Okay. Sure.
This time, they decided to pick 12 media members in the talk, talk radio and talk television business, broadcasting business, and they're doing it that way. So they just don't. But they've had media members before.
Yeah.
This year, they asked me to be one of the 12.
Because now we have New York and L.A. involved.
Right.
So these are huge markets with huge ping pong balls coming down because we have 2 really good young players at the top who could change life in either big city, right?
Yes. Well, there's no question. Listen, Karl Anthony Towns and Jahlil Okafor, Okafor, that's the way they would say his name is pronounced. There is no question that they will be the top 2 picks in the draft. They are franchise caliber players, albeit for different reasons. I think when you look at Karl Anthony Towns, you look at the Chris Bosh types, the guys that can play the 4 or the 5, but can step away from the basket, can shoot, can put the ball on the floor, can do a little something. Jahlil Okafor, this dude is a legit big man. I want to give him the ball 10 feet and in, 8 feet and in. Take me to the promised land. I'm talking about that kind of a big
boy. So if the Knicks hit the lottery, you want
that's who they want.
That's
the triangle. That's the triangle.
Well, I ain't thinking about no damn triangle.
That's the triangle.
I'm just saying that for me.
That's your coach.
Wait a minute
now.
You know what? Actually, he's not the coach. If he were the coach, I would never speak in any kind of just. Phil Jackson is a fantastic, phenomenal, great 11-time championship coach. But as an executive, he's a rookie. Right. And I don't care about him right now as an executive. I'm telling you. He goes to the bench, come talk to me. But outside, I could have done his job last year. I could have done that job. I mean, I'm getting rid of J.R. Smith and DeMond Shepard for 2 picks and 2 trade exceptions. I'm getting rid of Tyson Chandler, giving them away like he's a box of cookies for Samuel Dallenberg. I couldn't have done that. And Raymond Felton, I couldn't have done it. And getting Jose Calderon. Why? Because he speaks good Spanish. I mean, what did that do for the Knicks? Don't get me started. I was in a good mood.
You might get the first pick. That's why.
Listen. If I get the first pick,
then you're happy, right?
I'm very, very happy, but I'm still concerned because it ain't got to be. It's not going to be about that daggone triangle. I need a big boy presence. The days of Ewing need to return to the garden.
Oh, boy.
Okay?
Wait, I got one question.
What?
You want a Jahlil who made 51% of his free
He'll
throws
improve.
last year.
He'll improve.
Also, we're going to have Hacker Jaleel now. With
He'll improve. He'll
Really?
improve.
Yeah. Oh,
He'll improve.
yeah.
Listen,
Oh, that's
they
your
won't
guy?
hack him. Listen, if they hack him for the Knicks, that'll be an improvement. That means they're in the game.
Oh.
And you gotta employ some kind of strategy
They're
in order to
relevant.
beat them. That's the point. The way the Knicks look right now, they'll sit there and be like, man, just give them the layup. We feel bad for them. Let them score the layup. Don't even foul.
Coach, you don't care who the Lakers get. Just one or two.
Yeah,
What
but
you're hoping for.
we won't get it all fixed this year.
Okay. No, well, we're rebuilding.
Yeah, we're rebuilding.
Oh, yeah, we're starting right here from ground.
We're okay. We're okay.
Not in Kobe's last year.
Well,
They ain't
you
trying to
can't tell
rebuild.
him that.
Yeah, let me tell you something right now. Listen, with Julius Randle coming back,
Yes.
okay, Kobe can come back. If you got a Jahlil Okafor or Karl Anthony Towns,
Okay.
it could help you. You could be interesting. I'm not talking about championship, of course.
Yeah,
not.
but
I'm saying it
relevant.
could be interesting. You could improve.
Question. Is Love going there?
You know what? I don't think they should want Love. Because Love is talented and he can really shoot. But Love is in the right situation. To go someplace else to be that franchise guy, Love is essentially a spot-up shooter. You know, he can really shoot.
Not a fan.
He
never
can
heard you
really
say that.
shoot. But to be in Tinseltown, to be in L.A., and not only that, keep this in mind, guys and ladies. It's very, very important, especially for you. Listen up, girl, because this is important.
Men,
This is
please.
important. Woman, I apologize.
That's okay.
I apologize. I say that to my sisters. They're old. I say that. I apologize. No disrespect.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. If you are in L.A.,
Yeah.
Oh,
you are following Kobe.
Yes.
that's hard.
See, that's a big deal.
Hard. It's hard.
That's a big deal.
Yes.
Because you are, it's your era. Once whoever follows Kobe, that's a problem.
Yeah, if you give it max deal.
And it's not going to be Kevin Love.
And you can't give
It can't
Love
be
a
Kevin
max
Love.
deal.
No,
Yeah, good point.
You got something else to add?
no, I'm good.
You get Spurs are
I'm just
straight?
going to sit back and giggle tonight.
Oh, because
I
your
watch
Spurs
what
are
happens.
good. Your Spurs
Yeah,
are
they're-
set.
they're-
The
They're all
Spurs
set?
are getting a little long in the tooth. Coach.
Yeah, but hey,
They're getting a little long.
I only have the best general manager
Oh,
in
okay.
all of sports.
I agree.
Who continues to steal Ginobili's and Parkers in the
I
second
agree.
round or the bottom of the
I
first
agree.
round.
Yes.
Tiago Splitter. Give me another Tiago. I'll take him.
I agree.
I want the Knicks to get one of the top 2 picks, and I want them to get Kawhi Leonard in the offseason.
Oh, nice. That would be so. Look at this guy. It's been war.
It will not
It will
happen.
not. It's
I
a
know,
war.
I know, but that's what I want.
I'd like LA to get that guy.
So would
He'd be
we.
close to home, San Diego State.
Well, listen, the Lakers and the Knicks both have room.
Although I must tell you, in the last 3 games against the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard was not to be.
I'll take it.
If you
I'll
get one
take
of the
it.
top, if you're the Lakers and you get one of the top 2 picks,
Oh, boy.
with Kobe coming back, and you get a Kawhi Leonard in
Yeah.
free agency,
Pretty good.
I think Robert Kraft looks at this as an insult to what they've done there on their dynasty legacy. When they pull in Spygate into this Deflategate, it kind of taints everything. But I think what they're saying is we have a lot more information than we're sharing with everybody. They know exactly what happened in this situation because there is no need for the Patriots to talk this loud this much right now. Specifically, going into an owner's meeting, we have 2 days with Roger Goodell, and you can have private conversations with him. So they're putting their heels in pretty tight here to say, hey, look, we're not going away quietly on this one.
All right, so back channel conversations, they're not going away quietly. Mark Dominic says they must know something to be so dug in. Herman Edwards still hanging out with us. So let me ask you a question. Do you believe, or what are the chances that this gets settled before the appeals process is complete?
Oh, it's going to get settled. I do believe it gets, yep. I
Okay.
believe it's going to get settled, especially on the behalf of the New England Patriots football team. Now, how far Tom Brady wants to take that, that's up to Tom Brady. But as far as the football team, I think this will get settled. I think at this point, Mr. Kraft knows that, as well as Roger, this is becoming an embarrassment for the National Football League. It's becoming a big distraction for a lot of folks, and everybody's weighing in on it. We're all discussing, about this should happen, that should happen. You know what? I've always said this: keep your private matters private. They're going to have a conversation. They're going to come to some resolution, and I would say here before the end of the week, to be quite honest. And something will be said, and all of a sudden, now where Tom Brady goes with this, I have no idea. Do I think he's going to get suspended for 4 games? Nope. I think it's going to probably go down to 2. Now, Tom Brady might fight because of what has happened to him. He feels like his legacy has been a little bit tainted. But regardless of how this turns out, it's too late. The genie's out of the jar. I mean, when something like this happens to a person, some people will believe it, regardless if he's innocent. Some people will not. So that's out of the jar. So I just think right now this organization, along with Roger Goodell, they're going to sit down and say, look, this is what we're going to do. and let's put it to bed and let's move on with other matters.
One of the things that people I think everyone knows it, but we're not verbalizing it enough. This is not going to go away unless Tom Brady wants it to go away.
I told you that earlier today.
What I mean by that is this, not in the way you mean it, in the way I mean it.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is this. In the grand scheme of things, Skip, aren't the Patriots worth more than $2.6 billion? We don't care about a $1 million fine for them.
No.
There's nothing.
The draft pick's another matter.
The draft pick's another matter, but that's a Bostonian thing. They're upset about that. But the rest of the world is like, yeah, right, they don't have a first-round pick. So what? I mean, and move on. Where it becomes incredibly compelling is if Tom Brady stands tall and says, I don't want this to go away. I have been lied on. I have been slandered. I have been defamed. And there's no way on earth that I'm going to stand pat for this. Here's where it gets interesting. Because we're hearing reports that Roger Goodell and Robert Kraft met, they talked, they hugged. It was in the aftermath of the Peter King interview.
I guess it was
not
on
before.
The same day on Saturday.
I think
later
it was Saturday, whatever.
Yeah.
The point that I'm trying to make to you is that, Skip, here's where your case becomes stronger and mine becomes weaker as it pertains to Tom Brady not speaking up for himself, Tom Brady not being quote-unquote cooperative, if indeed he was following the advice of Robert Kraft. Because Robert Kraft, the owner, the trusted patriarch of the Patriots franchise, who most people like myself revere, if he goes to Tom Brady and he says, I got this because of my relationship with Roger Goodell, then in essence, maybe Robert Kraft is standing up the way that he did because of what he told Tom not to do. Since we've engaged in conjecture when we've sat up here over the last few days, inhale this. I'm Tom Brady. I want to fight. I want to go for it. But Mr. Kraft at the time is telling me, I got this. You don't worry about it. You just go win me a Super Bowl. Robert Kraft goes up there, talks, and defiantly stands up for Bill Belichick, defiantly stands up for Tom Brady and the Patriots organization, tells Roger Goodell, we expect an apology, which ticked off the NFL. Robert Kraft probably took that position, not just because of what Tom Brady told him, but also because he gave Tom Brady all the confidence in the world to believe it would be handled. This is going to amount to nothing. And then when it comes out that it did not amount to nothing because Tom Brady got smacked with a 4-game suspension, now that changed the tenor of things. So how Tom Brady reacts going forward is going to tell me a lot, because if I'm Tom Brady and Robert Kraft told me to be quiet, he'll handle it because he's an owner, he's got a relationship with Goodell, and it still ended up me being defamed with a 4-game suspension with the world thinking I'm a liar and a cheater. No. The owner can't come to me and tell me to be quiet after that because I did it your way. Now we're going to do it my way. But if he sits there and he doesn't go that route, that'll tell me something different. It remains to be seen.
So you're saying basically Tom Brady, in his own mind, feels like he shouldn't be suspended at all.
Well, that's what Skip's been saying.
And with that being said,
that's what Robert Kraft said.
If it gets down to 2 games rather than 4,
no way. There's no way he would accept 2 games.
Tom Brady won't accept. Because he'll continue to fight. He won't take it for the team.
He would have to accept 2 games of guilt because it'd be
you know what? Here's the problem though. The genie's out of the bottle. Regardless, if he gets suspended no games, you know what some people will say? Oh, it's cover up.
Okay.
They're trying to protect Tom Brady, the Golden Boy. So Tom Brady already has been
reputation permanently stained, right? Permanently
for some people.
Okay.
And for others, it won't be. Yeah. And that's you're not going to get it back, Skip. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay. I don't think Tom, from what I'm told from his confidence, is thinking that way. That he feels so wrongly convicted here that he doesn't care what the rest of America thinks or doesn't think.
Right.
He's just going to fight this to the nth degree. He's going to take. That's why he hired Jeffrey Kessler, the biggest thorn in the side of the National Football League, to take this into court to clear his neck, clear it, not just 2 games worth, but to clear his name, because it might change some of those minds out there. And this is a proud and a powerful man in Tom Brady. And he's just begun to fight. Now, if I'm Tom Brady and I read that Mr. Kraft and Goodell were hugging on Saturday night, it might not sit well with me. It might give me a little pause. Like, I know they used to be close, but didn't last week Roger Goodell all but declare NFL war on the commissioner?
But I guess what I'm saying is that if I'm Tom Brady, it doesn't faze me as much until I see the outcome, meaning that if this materializes into that punishment being eradicated, then it works for me. If it doesn't, then we got another problem. But, Coach, I got to go back to you.
Yes, sir.
Forgive me for saying this to you, sir. I find it very hard to believe, as much of a team player as you are, and as much as you talk about winning the game, and as much as you talk about and preach about team, and by the way, I love the fact that you mention so many young kids because you are an inspiration to me. You know I love you.
Thank you.
But then I have to say this to you. You're big on character. Somebody labels you a liar and a cheater.
Oh, no doubt.
Coach, you going to take 2 games for the team?
No doubt.
You going to take 2 games for the team?
No.
I don't know if you can do that.
No, that's the question.
You asked, I'm saying you asked Skip. You know, 2 games, he's not going to take 2 games for the team. You were asking Skip as if that's what you would do. I got to ask you, really? Because I can't imagine somebody labeling you a liar and a cheater, and then you're going to turn around and take 2 games.
And I'm saying, and I get that, and I agree with you. And if Tom wants to do that, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter.
I agree with
that.
He
wins or not, it doesn't matter.
I agree with that.
It's too late. It's too late.
Except to him, it matters.
It matters to him, which is great. But at the end, hey, some people are going to have opinions about Tom Brady. Some people are going to have other opinions.
Yeah.
You know what? I got this last point. Skip, I was thinking about this the other day, and it sounds crazy. And I'll preface my statement by saying that. But character is such a big thing when it comes to something like this. I would not, if Tom Brady is indeed innocent, I would not have blamed Tom Brady if he came out and called the press conference and said, y'all go to hell, I retire. I will not come back and play for a league that thinks 1 year ago you calling me an ambassador. I'm the Super Bowl MVP. You give me a big hug. And then you turn around and label me a liar and cheater, and you think I'm going to represent this shield? I'm done. I got my $100 million. I got my supermodel wife. I got my family. I'm set for life. I know who I am and what I stand for. The NFL, you can go. I'm saying it would not. If I almost felt like, if he's innocent, I'm not saying he should have done it, but I almost felt like, you know, because to be labeled a liar and a cheater.
I agree. You might be onto something there. You know? He is capable of doing that.
You know, I wouldn't have blamed him.
He's golfing right now with Jordan.
I ain't mad at him for that.
He ain't worried about nothing.
But he's probably beating Jordan. Yes, possibly. The point that I'm trying to make to you is that in the end, if he's innocent, I'm not saying he should. But I wouldn't blame him if he did, if he's innocent.
Our coach says that he believes this will be settled before the appeals process is complete.
I do believe that.
That's interesting.
We'll see.
We'll hold you to that.
Okay.
On the team side. Right.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
Right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals between Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors tonight. The Warriors won the 4 games in the regular season. So take a look at this. This is the 5th time that a team swept another team in the regular season and then met again in the conference finals. So here's the question, and Tim Legler will be able to help us with this. Who wins this series, my friend?
Golden State's going to win the series. The question is going to be how much resistance is Houston going to offer them. That's really what it comes down to for me. Bottom line is this. Golden State's a better offensive team. Golden State is a significantly better defensive team.
Yeah.
Houston can turn it up at times defensively, but they're not consistent across the board. And at the critical positions that you need to be good defensively in this series, they don't have that without Patrick Beverley. That's an enormous loss to play a team like this, because you got Jason Terry and Pablo Prigioni trying to chase Steph Curry around. James Harden is going to have to be chasing Klay Thompson around. We know James is not necessarily the guy who's going to dig in on that end. So that's the biggest problem is can Houston stop Golden State or make them less efficient at least to give yourself a chance to win? I think Houston can score in this series. I don't know that they're going to be able to stop Golden State for long stretches, and that's what it comes down to. Golden State's better on both ends.
Just for our viewers, Beverley, wrist injury, not expected to play.
Correct.
For the rest of the season. So that's why you really think that's a super negative.
That's an enormous loss. You're talking one of the best on-the-ball defensive guards in the league. And also the kind of guy that's an irritant. He would wear on Curry a little bit over the course of the series with the stuff that he does, and maybe get into his head a little bit, make him try to do too much. That's what Patrick Beverley does to guys. Without him, it's really difficult to think they're on the ball perimeter defense. It's going to be a problem. You got to chase guys around a lot of screens when you play the Golden State Warriors and commit for the entire shot clock. I don't know that Houston really has that level. They'll score, but they're not going to score enough because they're not going to stop Golden State the level they have to.
So you're going Golden State in?
I'm going to be nice and say 6. Oh. If I wanted to really be out there on the edge, I'd say sweep, because I think Golden State's a significantly better team. But listen, Houston does have a lot of momentum based on what they just did to the Clippers. That does mean something heading into this series. So I will say Houston, because of that, they're playing good enough basketball right now, believe in themselves. They'll get 2 games, but Golden State wins it in 6.
I picked the Golden State Warriors in 6 as well. I look at the Warriors. They move the basketball very well. They trust one another, and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry aren't their only shooters. Draymond Green can hit some shots. Andre Iguodala won't hit some shots, but he'll score on the break for you. Harrison Barnes can hit some shots. He can score getting to the basket. Sean Livingston can come off the bench. He causes you matchup problems. And again, the absence of Patrick Beverley, as Tim just elocuted, is devastating because he is there specifically to defend. Yep. He ain't an offensive player. He's there to defend. And when you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, you got a problem. Because whoever's on James Harden, whoever James Harden is on, they're going to make him run. They're going to make him run. That's how they're going to try to offset what he gives them offensively. Because when he's on defense, they're going to make him move. They're not going to allow him to stand around. And the thing about it is that, to me, Tim, Dwight Howard, more so than in any other series since he has been in Houston, this is the series where you hate to call an $88 million man the X Factor, but he's the X Factor. Because you have Andrew Bogut and David Lee down low. Maurice Spates is out. There is
Although he might
come back, but they're not sure. Yeah. My point to you is that it don't matter. Dwight Howard has to dominate.
100%.
He has to dominate. Agree. Because if he doesn't dominate, then you got Houston's perimeter game against Golden State's perimeter game. And that ain't no matchup. Regardless of how great Harden is, he's outnumbered because these guys, as good as the Corey Brewers and the Josh Smiths and them can be in moments, you have to consistently play 48 minutes of defense running around to keep up with these guys. This is what they do to you. And to me, Houston is not going to do it. Forget about can't. They won't even try. They're going to get lackadaisical. You've got to make it up on the offensive end of the floor with Dwight Howard dominating the paint area. Yep. On both ends, defensively and offensively. He's got to do it.
I'm going out on that edge that you talked about. I'm going sweep. Golden State is a 10-point favorite at home tonight. Unusual for a conference final game 1. 10 points. These teams played 4 times all before January 21st, so the last game was on the 21st. Golden State won by an average of 15 points a game. I know they were a long time ago, and it'd be very hard for, as you well know, for a team to win 8 straight games in 1 year, 1 season against one team. But Dwight Howard played in the 3rd and the 4th game. In those 2 games, he had 0 block shots, which I don't understand. And in the last game, a blowout by Golden State at Golden State, he had 7 points and 11 rebounds. So I don't know that he's going to be as huge a factor as you guys say he needs to be. And in the end, this is the #1 defensive team in pro basketball, and they still, thank you for bringing it up, but they still don't get enough credit for this. They do a number on teams, and I still think that the real Rockets were the team that got blown out 3 times in those first 3 games against the Clippers. Remember, it was like, I'm off the top of my head, 16 points, 25 points, and 33
They can't run with
points.
points.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not a fair fight, and I also think Houston might be a little mentally and physically weary from the 7 games, especially tonight.
I think even more than being weary, the biggest concern is when you're locked in a 7-game series, they haven't talked about anything other than the Clippers for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
You have 1 day off. Playing a team like Golden State requires an awful lot of film preparation to understand how good your rotations have to be defensively because of the way they move it and how many guys can shoot it.
Yeah.
You don't have enough time to prepare. Golden State had a couple extra days as it is, and they're already a better team. So if Houston wants to have any chance, obviously, they have to win one of these first 2 games, and I just don't think they've had enough time to get ready for what they're going to see because this is an onslaught when you play the Golden State.
Well, the only thing I would say to that, Tim, is this, and I agree with you, obviously, but I think that you will agree, and I try to tell Skip this, sometimes your potency defensively is because you're so lethal offensively.
No doubt.
Even when
No doubt.
it's a tie score, you feel like you're playing catch-up. It's like defending Steph Curry straight up. You know what makes him so lethal? You're petrified of him the second he steps past half court because he has the green light to pull up from anywhere, and he can make those shots with accuracy. And so because of that, you're constantly on your heels, and it affects you. That's why it's so important for Dwight Howard to show up, because you have to put Golden State on its heels defensively. You got to score. They need to be worried about you scoring, so they have to be more precise offensively. Because if you don't put that kind of pressure on them, and they're able to just go out there loosey-goosey because they ain't worried about you, you're dead. You're dead.
Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Cavs and the Hawks kicks off tomorrow night. The Hawks won 3 of the 4 meetings this year, including a 29-point win in Cleveland back in December. One of the question marks, though, heading into the series was the health of one Kyrie Irving. He spoke on it yesterday.
Feeling great. Just last few days of treatment, rest, being able to actually, feel both of my feet underneath me, especially when I'm shooting. It feels amazing, So it's just the confidence of getting extra work in and actually preparing with my teammates. I think that's the biggest thing I get out of it is just you don't want to be on the sideline at all, especially when you're preparing for such a big stage like this. So I want to be as close to 100% as I can be before Wednesday. So we're doing the necessary things in order to do that.
Les, the series may be over already. He has a headband as well.
I see that.
It's a wrap.
I see that. All those guys are wearing them.
Listen.
Looks like returning from the Civil War.
Listen, it's serious. So who wins the series?
I see a really tight series, like each game being close, but I give the edge to Cleveland. I think they could win this in 6 games because they've got the 2 most important players in this series, and I'm talking about Tristan Thompson and Timothy Mozgov.
Oh. Uh-oh.
And I say that somewhat in jest. You thought I was going to say LeBron and Kyrie.
Yeah.
Clearly they have the best player in the series in LeBron, and I thought his physicality in the first 2 rounds was in not settling for the shot that opponents want him to take and dominating you in the lane and at the rim. He's going to do that again in this series. But when I talk about Tristan Thompson and Timothy Mozgov, they have transformed this team from a mediocre at best defensive team at the start of the year, and probably up to midseason, to now what I saw in the Chicago series, a team that's capable of playing championship caliber defense. And they get them a lot of second shots. The energy that Tristan Thompson has in getting second shots and protecting the rim, and Mozgov's rim defense and his tap-out offensive rebounds, they're demoralizing to you. And they demoralized Chicago in Game 6. And that's why I think now I look at them differently. I didn't think they could beat Chicago without Kevin Love, especially if you told me Kyrie Irving was going to be limited. I said, no way they beat the Bulls. Their defense was so good in that series that now I look at them differently, that even with limitations offensively, or if certain guys don't play well, their defense is going to give them a chance to win every game, and I think ultimately they get it done because LeBron James is going to be the best player on the floor. We know that.
First things first, was it their defense in that Chicago Bulls series or Chicago's offense?
Both. I mean, I took the Bulls to task, and Tom Thibodeau in particular, after the last game because of how stagnant they were, how one-dimensional, ISO heavy. Yes. That's not who they are. And he had a lot of weapons this year offensively. So it was both
on the bench.
But Cleveland was suffocating the lane in that series. The way they were flying through the ball was impressive. Right.
I will say this. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win this series in 6. It could potentially go 7. Atlanta, it is time that I stand up and give them their respect.
Yes.
They won 60 games this year. You were raving about them all year long. They play together. They play unselfishly. They play team defense. They get up in you. They're not scared. They trust one another. And what makes them dangerous, Skip, is that they're a team that knows they are devoid of that one superstar. They don't have that guy when all else fails. Here's the ball, take me to the promised land. So they literally go by the feel of the game, what's going on that particular day, who we're going to go with, or they just trust one another and just give it to the open man. I am picking Cleveland because I believe it'll go back and forth, it'll be nip and tuck. But whether it's a game 6 or a game 7, in the end, you're talking about a tight series. You are devoid of that go-to guy, that one individual. And the Cleveland Cavaliers have the best player in the world. I can't bet against LeBron James against Atlanta. You're not San Antonio. You're not Tim Duncan and Manu and those. You're the Atlanta Hawks. There's nobody on their squad that has been in this moment. Not even Al Horford. And you know how we both feel about Al Horford. So because there's nobody that has been there, I can't go with that. Now, what I will say about Atlanta is this. They have a legitimate home crowd this year. I got to cover that series in SportsCenter. They got a legitimate home crowd.
You're going to be there?
The whole series.
Uh-oh.
I'll be at the games count, baby. I'll be there in the house. I'll be in the house. All right, but the point that I'm trying to make is that that whole series, when you look at them, I'll say this, they have a legitimate home crowd now, which was not the case in the past. They are no joke in that regard. And on top of it all, Budenholzer knows how to coach against LeBron because of coaching under Popovich. I got to watch those things, which is why I believe this could get serious and potentially even go 7 because of Budenholzer. But they got to execute, and it's against LeBron. And if Kyrie is healthy enough, oh, it's a wrap. Ain't no way they losing if Kyrie's healthy. But if he goes down and it's just LeBron, it could get very interesting.
I'm going to make it unanimous, Cavs in 6, but I'm with you. I won't at all be shocked if this goes 7 games. I have gained respect by the game for this Atlanta Hawks team. And speaking of the greatest player in the world, the best player on the planet, what has Coach Pop always done against LeBron?
Get him to shoot.
Just keep him out of the lane and make him shoot those threes. What did he go against Chicago? 3 for 28 from 3. That's 11%. He cannot get away with that against these guys. It won't work because they're going to be making their threes because they live and die by the 3. Just Golden State.
Corbin did go off. It won't happen again, but 0 for 7 in the last game from 3.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, though. What impressed me about Atlanta in the last series, Washington went literally no help responsibility to take him out of the series, and in large part they did, and they still won. Now, I know Washington didn't have John Wall. It's an enormous loss. But the fact that their offense still functioned well enough to win with Korver basically taken out of it was impressive.
Let me come back right at you, though. Here's why. You're not wrong, but you left out a lot. Here's what I'm going to get to with you on. You brought up Moskov. You brought up Tristan Thompson. You know good and damn well Nene. There's still an APB out for Nene. He didn't show up that last series. Other than game 3, he was nowhere to be found. Ernie Grunfeld and them still probably want to slap him upside his head. Wait,
I do have a quick question for both of you. Now, you both say Cavs in 6, which I said as well. But you said it could go 7, so you automatically dismiss Atlanta in a home game?
I'm not automatically dismissing.
So if it gets to game 7, are you going to look at it differently?
I'm still picking Cleveland, but only for one reason. I can't believe that LeBron is going to be in a game 7 against guys who've never been there. And with a game to go to the NBA Finals. They've never been in that position, and LeBron is going to lose to them. If they had Tim Duncan, that would be different. But I can't give. LeBron's supposed to win that game 7 against those guys.
If you were hoping that Tom Brady was going to stop his life over Deflategate, well, think again. According to the Boston Herald, Tom and Giselle were in the Bahamas over the weekend to attend a wedding, and Tom found some time to get away and play golf with one Michael Jordan. It's the second time the duo has teamed up at Baker's Bay in the last couple of months, and like Luke Donald and Keegan Bradley Instagrammed the photo of them with MJ and Brady before the Masters. They are besties now. I don't know. Greats attract greats. Stephen A., what's going on here?
winners hanging out with one another. I have no issue with it. Tom Brady, regardless of Deflategate or whatever the case may be, he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion, one of the greatest quarterbacks to have ever played in the NFL, in NFL history. He's a winner, and he's hanging out with a winner and enjoying his off season. And regardless of how disgusted he might be from this whole process, which he has helped to inflict upon himself, by the way, at the very least with uncooperative tendencies, in the end, he still is Tom Brady. He's in appropriate company.
Okay.
So I guess Michael Jordan doesn't believe that Tom Brady is a liar and a cheater, right?
Well, Skip, shoot, I would golf with Tom Brady.
You would?
I mean,
you would play golf?
What I'm trying to say to you is, what's the big deal? I would play golf.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
I don't like people saying golf as a verb.
Why?
It just shows you don't play.
Well, Tom Brady, he's right about that. But Tom Brady, I mean, look, come on, man. I mean, the guy, let him live his life.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.